Oh my goodness. Uh, what was it? Just 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago now. We're at the retirement party, man. You looking spiffy, polished, professional. You and your lovely wife with a couple of the week. Man, you guys look awesome, man. And now 3 weeks later, and you
Sick as
you you
sick
got
as a dog.
you on oxygen.
I'm on oxygen.
Holy
Yeah.
smoke, bruh. So let's get into this. You know, um, we have struggles all the time, right?
Yes, we
I
do.
mean, I mean, whether it's work, family, the fraternity, you name it, there's a struggle in there somewhere.
Hmm.
But when this one comes out of the blue, how are you before we get into the actual medical part of this, how are you handling a sudden change in your life?
It's funny you say that. I was on Instagram today, and there was a blip on where do you what do you get from your mother and from your father? Like what traits?
Yeah.
Eye color comes from your mother.
Hmm.
Your intelligence comes from your mother. Hairline comes from your mother. Your mitochondrial DNA code only comes from your mother. And there's a litany of things, but one other thing is your ability to deal with stress comes from your mother. And
Mm-hmm.
my mom was a nationally recognized psychologist,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw how she managed the lifelong struggles of being a black woman,
Yeah.
growing ac being an academic,
Right.
fighting all those struggles,
Right.
and then manage a family all at the same time. We lost her this year, but she was 87,
Unfortunately.
so
Yeah.
which is a blessing.
Yeah.
But I get that sense of stress, um, or control of stress from her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Never too high, never too low. The truth is always somewhere in the middle,
Yeah.
and so uh, I think that's been a recipe for me.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up with a black mother, that classic, quit your crying because I'll come over there and give you something to really cry about, is real.
That's right,
So
man. We know. Absolutely. You ain't gonna get no sympathy over here, baby.
you ain't got no sympathy. But at the same time, I think um, we have to acknowledge what it is that we're dealing with
Yeah.
and say it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because the power of the spoken word is factual.
100%.
So if you put out negativity, uh, it'll become negative. There was I don't know if it's real or not, but it sounds reasonable. There was a study on the impact of negative speech on water,
Lost you
and
right there. Repeat that sentence.
there was a clinical study on the impact of negative speaking to water. Now, water
Okay.
is H2O, just plain old water,
Mm-hmm.
and in essence, um, over a certain period of time in a lab, they had a glass of water, and all the scientists were saying negative things about the water. You're ugly, da da. Da. They're
Mm-hmm.
constantly hitting it for a certain period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And in another separate room, sound controlled, they spoke positivity to the water, just speaking the sound. Upon freezing and making and looking at the crystallization of those waters,
Right.
um, the the water that was spoken negatively had disorder and no rhyme or reason, whereas the water that was spoken positively had beautiful, organized arrays of structure. So I believe the power of the speech can be examined under a microscope.
Right. I mean, if you're a spiritual person, which we are, you and I both,
Hmm.
you understand the power of the word. I mean, the word started everything,
Yeah.
right?
Uh,
So
Genesis.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. So to your point, that I mean, that's going to ring true because that's truth.
yeah. uh, God said, "Let there be light,"
Exactly.
and then there was light. But he or the divine one, whatever you want to call it, assign it to, spoke those words
Exactly.
to make it happen.
Bro, I love that, Keith. I think it starts there. I think with any struggle, right? You have to think about it positively, and you have
Hmm.
to know that there's gonna be a silver lining in there. You know,
Hmm.
you might go through the struggle. It might be terrible. I mean,
Hmm.
we have some stories to tell, but staying positive is really that's the best way to start. You
Yeah,
know,
start, continue, and finish. Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
So let's get into this, bro. How what was the first symptom that you had? Because like I said, I mean, you were the picture of health when I saw you at the retirement gig, man. You look great.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, I had shortness of breath, and it's crazy because it started getting worse. And I went into the hospital at first to urgent care, and
Mm-hmm.
they looked at my stats and said, "No, you need to go straight to ER." Went to Montgomery General in
Mm-hmm.
Maryland, and they were like, "We're not letting you go until your oxygen levels get good.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna start hitting you with a range of antibiotics." Because first blush, first guess after the X-ray, they're like, "This most likely is pneumonia," and
Did you
that's a
did you have
layup.
it in both lungs?
Yes, both lungs.
Mm.
Um, lower. So the lungs are, the right lung has three sections, the
Mm-hmm.
left lung has two, but for me, it was in the lower lobes
Mm-hmm.
and in the middle, a little bit in the middle. So that's a
And
serious
not
thing.
to and not to cut you off. How long did it take you to make a decision? Right.
To what?
So you started feeling a little short of breath, and this is unusual for you, right?
Right. I
So
didn't, like an idiot, I didn't rush to the hospital. My wife and I was like, let's get a bite to eat,
uh-huh.
before we go to the ER.
Yeah.
Just not thinking. It's just like trying to downplay it a bit. But
Mm-hmm.
that's what um,
Yeah.
we've always done as a people, as a
Yeah.
African descent. You
Right.
just like, oh, my legs bleed, my arms bleeding. Now
Let me
I
shake
put a
this
bed,
off.
shake this off.
Yeah.
Yeah, our level of tolerance is significantly higher than quite a few of our counterparts, culturally, and
There's
yeah,
no question about that. Okay,
right,
so you went and got a bite to eat,
yeah,
which is interesting,
yeah.
and it didn't get any better.
Didn't get any better, and so and part of the logic was, let's get something to eat, because if we're in the ER, we know we're going to be there all night. We're
Yeah,
starving,
absolutely.
and it was, thank God we did, in a weird way, because
Yeah,
I would they wouldn't even be able to find crackers for us. So
yeah.
um
And sometimes
so-
when you get there, they don't want you to eat anything.
yeah, because they then yeah, because they want whatever X-rays they want to do as clear as possible.
Right.
Food doesn't really show up that bad, but if they had to go in to do surgery, you want your stomach to be an empty
Mm-hmm.
stomach as best you can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But so went in, stayed overnight. Wasn't really responsive to the antibiotics.
Mm-hmm.
They called in the hospital's pulmonologist
Mm-hmm.
and infectious disease doc
Mm-hmm.
to get them on the case. So then they started hitting me with broad. It's called broad spectrum antibiotics.
Right.
Um,
And this was after they looked at the X-ray. They
X-ray.
hadn't taken a MRI, which would, really break down your lung,
Yeah.
to see exactly where the infection area is. Right.
Right.
Okay.
So later on, they did do a CAT scan under contrast, so
Mm-hmm.
they could truly see what's going on.
That was within
Um,
24 hours, 48 hours.
24 hours, because they wanted to make sure it wasn't what typically is a clot in the lungs,
Mm-hmm.
or an embolism, is it referred to,
Mm-hmm.
and no signs of any clotting.
Mm-hmm.
They put me on heparin to keep me that way, before they so that as they were sort of holding me in place until they could do an echocardiogram, which is
Mm-hmm.
a true.
Yeah.
Um, and again, echocardiograms are based on sound.
They wanted to see if you have any type of heart failure.
Yeah, they were looking for congestive heart failure,
Mm-hmm.
and they were looking for clots, and they were also looking for congestive heart failure is sort of a broad statement, but
Mm-hmm.
they were looking for the left ventricle, how effective that left ventricle was operating.
Right.
They were looking at the mitral valve, the aortic valve, um, they wanted to see if the valves themselves, the primary valves,
Mm-hmm.
pulmonary valve as well, just to make sure everything was working appropriately. It did.
Mm-hmm.
My EF function of squeezing out blood was on point.
And
No.
were they talking to you about what they were looking for?
Yes,
And did they know that you are in the medical industry? Did they know what your background was at that
um,
time?
I try to let them know in advance because I'll, they will dummy it down, which is, I guess,
Yeah.
fine. But I'll
And
say, hey,
you know that's an interesting point. Not to cut you off, Keith, but that happens a lot in the
yes,
industry where they just assume that you know Joe Blow
yeah,
or Michael Conrad walking in off the street doesn't know anything, is not a doctor, doesn't know anything about the medical terms, and so they dummy it down, right?
yeah, and they go straight to that. I think they could save themselves um, a bit of angst on their side. So
Mm-hmm.
if they say, hey, what's your level of uh, healthcare literacy?
Right.
Is the best way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Because then that's But if time is of the interest of essence, they're not going to stand high on Samar.
Right.
But the moment I start speaking and I speak back to them in their language,
Right.
um, then they'll say, "Hey, are you medical?" And I then reply, "30 years of this, I'm not a physician,
Right.
but I've been all over the hospital and I
Mm-hmm.
work for a very large pharmaceutical company
Right.
at their corporate office."
Yeah.
So,
And so
um,
as you get into your story, I
mhm,
want to break down like little segments of it, right? So
okay.
once you got the preliminary diagnosis, which was pneumonia, which is very general,
Hmm.
right? What was your reaction to that?
I'm saying that's a possibility. However, I'm not as responsive because I'd been on other antibiotics. I'm not being. This should be if it's a broad spectrum thing. This should be clearing up
It should be
like
dissipating.
ASAP. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, within
because
12
antibiotics.
hours, you should start to feel a
Yeah,
difference, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. And
And
that wasn't the case.
and if I could just pry just a little bit,
Sure.
what going into the hospital, I think our brains are accustomed to, like you said, staying positive, right? I'm going
Mm-hmm.
in, they're going to fix me, and I'm going to come
Mm-hmm.
right out, right? So your level of stress was probably, a little bit amped more than
Yeah.
your everyday, but it wasn't really, you weren't really too concerned, right?
Right.
Right. So
Um.
so when did the level of stress begin to change for you?
Uh. I guess the next day, and I wasn't bouncing back,
Mm-hmm.
and they put me on high dose steroids
Mm-hmm.
and they were putting me on
Prednisone.
which is prednisone as
Yeah.
the steroid, and then they gave me Lasix, which is a
Mm-hmm.
diuretic. Now
Mm-hmm.
uh, I've been working on losing weight for about a year and been successful. I lost 56 pounds,
Right. You
so
look
I'm mindful of
fantastic.
that.
Right.
Yeah, that's like got that.
Yeah.
So while I was there, I was starting to retain this fluid.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first came in, and for me it was high. It was 170.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 5'7", so I was
Mm-hmm.
um, a little out of whack. But I knew it was all fluid, so they gave me the Lasix, and in a 24-hour period, I lost 8 pounds. They just flushed
Mm-hmm.
because they had to get the fluid off my
Mm-hmm.
lungs,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like. not all 8 pounds was out of my lungs, but it was enough to be compromising.
Right.
And then so the next morning, um, I woke up and I actually got up out of the bed and I started listening to gospel music
Yeah.
and had my headsets on. I was doing a light dance and
Hmm.
literally crying because just
So the emotions.
thankful
So the
that
right. So you got emotional,
yeah,
right? And it was in the moment.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think you got to let that out. We as a
That's a
people,
really good point.
we don't let that out. I mean, and I didn't know it at the time, but there are other studies that talk about people who just are stoic and just
Yeah.
hold that all the way in,
Right.
and their recovery rates are slower and not as effective as to acknowledge pain, acknowledge
Yeah.
grief, but find joy in the upswing.
Hmm.
So
And how were the conversations between you and your wife? How were they?
stressful, and
Hmm.
I felt as the man. We've been married for 25 plus years.
Yeah.
That I am now a burden to my wife.
Oh,
I'm the bread.
that's a big deal.
I'm laying in bed. My wife is laid out in a hospital
Hmm.
chair that stretches, but still
Right. It's
is
uncomfortable.
mad uncomfortable.
Right.
I'm putting her through this, and she really loves me. And on top of that, she hopefully I'm joking. She don't want to lose me,
Of course.
and I don't want to lose her. I
Right.
mean, we're still relatively young. It's middle age, but
Right.
this should not be our story. Uh,
Absolutely.
at this, maybe
30
10,
years
20
from now.
years from now.
Yeah.
Now I'm about 30. I
I'm
mean,
pushing it. I'm pushing.
I'm
I'm
pushing it.
saying positive, baby.
Yeah, I'm saying positive. I am.
Yeah.
So I I was like, I was looking at her, and at one point in the middle of the night,
Hmm.
I get on my phone and I record, kind of way in the dark, but it's still there, a last will and testament on my phone.
This is this is the second night.
Second or third night,
Boy. Okay.
and
So
so that was
now
just.
I mean, so that had to be
We went
so.
from going to a retirement party to that. Mm,
Okay.
yeah, and I.
That's heavy right there.
So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So I was in the hospital for 6 days.
Okay.
Um, Relative speaking to people who have this issue, that's a short period of time. But it was a long time for me because, as much as I worked in hospitals and all that, I'm not trying to live up to it. I mean, because
Absolutely.
keep in mind, I'm on the commercial side of things for business, for the company I work for. So I talk to a lot of people. I've got all this past experience. So I am literally talking to every staff member comes into my room.
Hmm.
We're talking the industry.
Yeah.
And I'm encouraging
That's a
nurses to
lot of
hang in there.
conversation.
I'm
Yeah.
doing this, that, and so. But I got to a point where, if you walked in my room, I would say, "Hey, X, hey, Dot, hey,"
Right.
and I know it's important to say, I know what I'm going through, but I'm always going to ask you, "How's your day?"
Right.
And it's a deflective thing,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I want to show genuine interest
Of
because
course.
I want to make a connection.
Absolutely. I think you're making a really good point. You know, when you're in the hospital and I took care of my elderly mother for years, decades. My mother was had a chronic illness, and so you learn over time that you want to connect with your caregivers
Hmm.
as much as possible because those caregivers are, man, they are some amazing people, but they are busy.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And so you want to connect with those caregivers and let them know that you care about them, and you care about their day. How's their day going? Because you want the best care ever.
yeah.
Okay, and the reality is that honey draws it in.
It does. It's funny. And I mean, I spoke to everyone.
Yeah.
And one woman in particular, I forget her name. She was I loved Montgomery Journey because it was like the UN. There was every because I was like, "Where are you from?" Oh, I didn't know that. Where are you from? Oh, okay. Well, the
Yeah.
woman that would come in to clean my room,
Mm-hmm.
I think she was from Cameroon,
Mm-hmm.
and she would come in with a smile
Mm-hmm.
to talk to me, and she had mentioned how she was trying to clean somebody's room, and they didn't want this African monkey,
Oh my.
and told her that
Oh my.
to come in there into their room. And here
Yeah.
you are, you all laid up sick as
Yeah. And
a three-legged dog, and
you
you
still
gonna
got
be
a little bit
nasty
you
to
still got a
somebody?
little bit of racism in you.
A little bit. You got quite a bit, quite a
Yeah,
bit,
I mean that's a
and
lot.
it's so short-sighted mindset. It's like
Right.
this is their job,
Yeah.
and every one of these people have the power to move your health quality of health along or slow it down.
Absolutely.
And it just broke my heart to her. I said,
Yeah, that's very unfortunate.
yeah,
You know, that
but
is
that
it.
was a real thing that happened. I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Auntie, I am so thankful for you
Yeah.
and all this. God bless you. And all,
Yes.
I was not, and I was coming from here because
Right.
because she looked like someone in my family. So,
Of course. Yeah, and it doesn't, it doesn't matter, where folks come from, what their background is, because it's a one-on-one moment right then,
it's a one-on-one moment. Yeah.
you know, and it doesn't matter if they are, one of your nurses or they're in to just draw blood, you know,
Hmm.
you want to connect with that person. Absolutely, bro.
Yeah.
That's so good. Okay, so okay, we kind of glossed over the last will and testament. That now
Oh,
that was
I can get into that. So,
that so what led you to that moment? Because
um,
a lot of people, and I don't know what the statistics are, but a lot of people don't have it.
yeah, they don't have a will. Because I mean, look, Prince died without a will.
Yeah.
Because either you don't think about it in the moment or you
Right.
don't want to.
Right.
And those are two different things. For me,
Yeah.
I had tentatively had one, but didn't go through the motion of getting it all written out and then
Mm-hmm.
signed off on it.
Yeah.
So I laid up in bed. I said, "Well, it's time stamped, GPS stamped. My wife's sitting right here; she's asleep, but um,
Yeah.
this is me, and it's the practicality of managing stress.
Yeah.
There are things. Um, my parents were amazing in terms of getting all their affairs organized well in advance.
Preparation. Preparation.
And yeah, and
Yeah.
you need to carve out time in your life. You ain't so fast and busy that you can't sit down and write it all down.
That's a great point, and I think the truth is that you and your wife work really hard for your three sons. You've worked your entire career, to take care of your family.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm speaking in third person, but, there's nothing you wouldn't do for your kids. So,
Right.
your will and testament or your family trust or what have you, that's just as important as getting up in the morning and
It
taking
is.
care of your kids because that's why you've done what you've done. Like you said, you've been married 25 years plus. That's why you've done what you've done. So to really embrace that and look at it from the standpoint that that's just security.
It is, and I took it a step further. So this week, um, we're getting ready to buy a house,
Yeah.
and
Congratulations.
thank you. So I can't attend the closing for obvious reasons, but my wife is going to go to do that, and we had to fill out a power of attorney.
Yeah.
Um, so my wife, um, one of her sorority sisters, happens to be a public notary. So I didn't have to leave the house to go get it done. She
Excellent.
came to our house, and while I was thinking, I have a service through my company that I can get a last will and testament form filled out. You can
Mm-hmm.
just go online. I mean, back in
Yeah.
the day, it was when like go online, fill in some key questions,
Yeah.
and it prints it all out. And then since it's ready for
Notary.
witness and notary to do that, so then we called another friend who came by to witness it, filled out that paper, that signed where he needed to sign, all the different sections. I made sure my side was in order, Curtay's side was in order, and get that done and had it
Wow.
signed. And so I was again trying to um, improve upon the little cheesy video I had with the hard document, so
Yeah.
that now that piece of business is
Mm-hmm.
done. And is it perfect? No, but now that I have and we're buying an asset,
Yeah.
um, and I have some land as well. I
Yeah.
want to make sure that that is now um,
Yeah. I
thought
mean,
of in writing.
absolutely. I mean, it's so important. And I think you, look, it's really stressful to think about an end of life scenario, right? That stresses out anybody.
Hmm.
But I think it's more stress when you think about end of life that you're not prepared for.
Right.
And if the man upstairs gives us an opportunity to prepare for it,
You need you, go prepare.
yeah, because I think it's going to take that stress level down. I think
Yeah,
when
I
you,
feel.
I mean, you felt really good about that in a moment where you're very concerned
Yeah,
about the status of your health.
right. And no matter what your family's, oh, we don't need to talk about that. That is not the right answer. You need to talk
Absolutely,
about it because death comes to us all.
facts,
You know.
100%. Okay, all right. So here it is. Dad, father, brother is taking care of business in the moment when he's down.
Yeah,
You
stress
know
level through the roof.
that speaks volumes.
Oh, and still working.
And still working, still taking phone calls,
Yeah.
still making people feel good around you,
Mm-hmm.
and and you're having to struggle to breathe, which is in fact one of the most difficult things. I grew up as an asthmatic,
Oh, I didn't
so
know that.
I have a little bit of knowledge about
Yeah.
not being able to breathe. Right,
Yeah.
my father unfortunately passed away with emphysema, and so
Mm-hmm.
those situations are, gosh, they are
Mm-hmm.
extremely difficult, right? Okay, so you've got all those things handled, and so now we can focus on getting you well. So where are you? Okay, you're 4 days
So,
in now, right?
well,
And
it's
what
a
are the
lot.
doctors telling you?
So they don't have an answer. So,
Oh,
but they do. They have been able to eliminate things off the board.
okay.
So it's not classic pneumonia.
Mm-hmm.
My results for autoimmune diseases came back all negative, which we just learned
Wow.
that today, which is huge
Yeah, that's a
because
good deal.
there's some really nasty autoimmune diseases.
There's some monsters.
Yeah, and it's not like those aren't really technically curable, other than a lung
Yeah,
transplant.
yeah. I mean, you have to live with it.
They just got to live with it.
Yeah.
And then it's not lung cancer. That was they ruled that out. But
Mm-hmm.
now they got to see what obscure type of X, whatever the hell it
Mm-hmm.
is this, and how do we treat that? So and then so I'm grateful to have conversations with with yourself and another friend who had kidney transplant, how his lungs got compromised,
Mm-hmm.
and he's fine now. But it took a couple years for
Mm-hmm.
him to get him back. So that's where I'm at now. Next week, or not next week, but the following week, I'm going to meet my pulmonologist
Mm-hmm.
in an outpatient setting to try to come up with a plan.
Mm-hmm.
This thing has forced me to change how I go about life, just walking around. And it's so amazing because now I never thought about the act of breathing.
Right.
It's just something that you just do. You just get up and go, and
Right. You just
you got stuff to
take it
do.
for granted.
I took it so for granted.
Right.
I'm in shape. I was trying to get into walking and get everything firmed up,
Yeah.
but I have to now slow it down, but still get after it.
Right.
Um, One thing though that I know so far is that um, I can't stay stationary. I have to challenge myself. I gotta get up off the couch
Hmm.
and walk around,
Yeah.
aided with oxygen or not. Get your butt up and go.
Yeah.
Be in the sun.
Hundred
Get
percent.
out the house because that your energy level has a direct impact on how fast you, for me, recover. So
Yeah.
your emotional mindset, all that, that's really starting to come into play.
Yeah, it is, right? So now you're out of the hospital, you don't have a diagnosis, right?
No
And so
diagnosis.
you don't have a prognosis, right? So you don't have a projected course of action, or any actionable items that can be put to work now. You're still in this mystery.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. All I have is I have to try to exercise my lungs. Just like trying to slowly breathe in and
right.
hold it and just constantly be doing not like this. This is helpful. Standing, talking, all that, that's
Mhm.
helpful, but I gotta go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually get to a point where I cough because the coughing helps to expand what at the lowest level of your lungs. It's called the alveolar sacs, and
Hmm.
that's where oxygenated blood and unoxygenated blood exchange. And
Hmm.
so that anything in there, you got to break up because that's where that's at the core of it all.
Right.
Um, Lungs are resilient, but scarred or damaged, it'll take a long time to heal. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is the lungs are can be difficult. The scarring of the tissue can be a major problem. I think you and I talked about that off camera. Which is my history, which is for another podcast. But so now you're in a situation where it's fight.
it's a fight.
It's
It
fight.
is a
I mean, it's time to fight now. It's time
Yep.
to push the envelope. You have to push the doctors now, right? So let's talk about that for a moment, because I don't want to get too opinionated, but I'm not very happy with the industry as a whole, um, because doctors are just so taxed and
Hmm.
in so many levels, where I think that care is slipping somewhat.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people are not getting the care that they deserve, right, in the wealthiest country on the planet. Right. So
Hmm.
so that's a whole nother conversation. But where I'm going with this is, it's going to be really important, for you or anyone in a situation like this, to push the envelope,
Hmm.
right? Because the fact of the matter is you have to get down to a true diagnosis, right?
Yeah.
And that diagnosis, it doesn't matter what it takes. If you have to travel to London to see a world-renowned specialist, if you got to, hopefully it's not London. You and I talked about some local world-renowned pulmonologists that are just here. You're one of the fortunate ones that live in the DMV,
Yeah.
where there's a tremendous amount of really good professionals,
Hmm.
that have tremendous resources to bring to bear to figure out this mystery, bro. Because the faster you get to a diagnosis, the faster you can kick this fight into full speed, right?
Agreed. And it's interesting. I have been. you're speaking squarely on being a self advocate. You have to fight, and so one of the things that I've been while I was in the hospital, I was like, this is like a episode of House where
Exactly.
this is not a layup shot. This isn't like you just pitch in, and we and that I would say that to my pulmonologist, and as well as my wife, she would say, "Hey, this is a tough case. This is going to be a challenge, and hopefully you're up for it. Don't just and uh, and in response or in kind, and maybe subconscious or not, but
Excuse
instead
me.
of just ordering the regular amount of testing,
Yeah.
he ordered this massive
Hmm.
array of tests to. He's like, "Oh, yeah, this is a challenge." It's like I'm baffled too. I said, "Okay," I want to give him permission to reach out to other pulmonologists
Oh,
and other
100%.
people, and just say, "Hey, this is going to be a team sport effort. If you don't have the answers, that's okay.
Yeah.
But we're gonna bug a bunch of people, show my stuff to them,
Yeah.
and get the best guess we can do
Yeah.
on this. And you might be able to write it up. I mean, this is so weird.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, look, I'm going to briefly go into, what I experienced, which is unbelievably similar to your situation where, I had a typical lung infection, which I thought it was. Went to my primary care,
hmm
listened to my lungs. My lower left lung was, didn't sound right, and he said, "Look, I'm going to prescribe." Now, this was years ago, so this is 2018. I'm going to prescribe an antibiotic, and I think you're going to be fine. Didn't have any heavy cough. I wasn't really short of breath, but I knew something was wrong. Like I could hear myself wheezing, right?
hmm
So that it didn't take. So that antibiotic didn't work. He's like, okay, I'm going to send you to pulmonologist, and went to the pulmonologist, and I went through 3 rounds of different antibiotics over the course of I would say close to 60 days. Okay, and
Wow.
so not knowing, looking back on this, that was a very big problem because it really exacerbated my situation because I wasn't healing. So
Right.
so with lungs, if you're not healing, you're scarring. So
hmm
those lungs, then my lower left lobe was scarring over, wasn't
mm
healing. Okay, so now I'm losing capacity.
hmm
Okay, so it's 60 days later, and I'm not happy. I'm
hmm
not happy. And look, I mentioned before earlier that I've took care of my mother for decades. 20 years of seeing doctors every other
Wow.
week. Okay, for multiple illnesses. So it was
Mm.
definitely within my wheelhouse to have conversations with doctors and push the envelope and talk about all the things that could happen, some of the things that should represent themselves that are not, you know.
hmm
So I was open to that. So I did what I felt was right, and I fired that pulmonologist.
Mm.
And I had mad respect for my primary, so I didn't tell him. So I didn't tell my primary, right? Because I'm looking. Okay, so now I'm worried. I'm worried
Yeah.
now. So
Right.
now I feel like, okay, this pulmonologist is not. He's not doing what needs to be done. I'm still sick.
hmm
So I went to my mother's pulmonologist, who, looking back on it, maybe I should have went to him first because I had known him for 20 years, right?
hmm
So I went to him, and he said, "Michael, um, I just looked at your." I saw him, and then he said, "Look, the X-rays haven't come over yet. I do hear some problems in your lungs. I'm going to wait for the X-ray. I'll call you." So by the time I got home from that appointment, he was calling me. come back over. And so now my
Just
stress
went
level
back up.
is through the roof now,
Hmm.
right? And so I I went in, talked to him, and he said, "Look, you have a problem. I want to send you over to the hospital, get you really checked out, right? I need a full workup of you, X, Y, and Z." And so we'll talk about that later. But what I'm getting at is, uh, I eventually was diagnosed with IPF, which is interstitial pulmonary fibrosis,
Hmm.
which is a terrible condition. It
Hmm.
is a terminal condition,
Hmm.
and that diagnosis was devastating on so many levels, right? But I'm saying all this to say that when he did that, that triggered a whole bunch of things. Now you're in the industry, right?
Hmm.
So now when you're talking about, and I have to preface this by saying, we're it's two men on this podcast right here, and as men in this world, you have to deal with the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Hmm.
Okay, we're built this way. Your parents built you this way. My parents built me this way, right? So we deal with the problems head on, all the challenges head on. And if you can't, you got to find help. You have to
Yeah, you got to
find
find
you got to find help, right? So
Hmm.
so this particular pulmonologist who I had known for half my life said, "Look, we're going to get you connected with a company that has a biologic, and another conversation, right?
Hmm.
But this is for lack of a better term, this is experimental treatment,
Yeah.
right? To prolong your life because they're already thinking, okay, you're in a very very serious situation, Michael,
Hmm.
and so I got connected to that company,
Hmm.
and that company with this particular biologic, they assign you a nurse.
Okay.
And so when I was seeing, I started seeing the nurse. We had our first orientation. She explained the process to me. The drug itself. Um, the challenges the side effects that go along with that drug, and all the ins and outs. Right. We had a second meeting after I sat with my wife and discussed this. And that's a wow. That's
That's
a
all
whole
different.
nother conversation there. And
Hmm.
uh and so we got into it, and she said, "Michael, my third appointment with her was when she was supposed to go over the specifics of the treatment, right? Because we had a treatment plan, and
Hmm.
during this process, my insurance company, which will remain nameless, which is a very good insurance company, right? Uh, did not approve the treatment. Okay, and when they told me that it's 96,000 for this treatment, it's hard for me to comprehend what a percentage of Americans are going through right now,
That.
not being able to buy medicine to take care of themselves and their families.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard
What?
to
So
fathom
why
that.
did they deny? Why did
So,
they deny you?
so they denied me because the signature on the MRI did not fall within their criteria.
The
Okay,
hand signature?
no, no, no. So when I'm using the term signature, but the actual imaging of
Uh
my
huh.
lungs when was sent over to the insurance company to approve the biologic, the insurance company and the professionals there said that they disagreed with the diagnosis. Therefore, they denied my claim.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter. By hook or crook, we've got to I've got to get this medicine, and
Right.
now that's a whole nother situation, right? Right, Keith? Because now you know we've got sons,
Yeah.
you know, and at the time, I mean, my sons they haven't gone to college yet,
Yeah.
right? So now you know that's a whole nother set of issues that are on top of getting, you know, putting in the work for this fight, because I have to live, you have to live, so we got to figure out how we're going to fight and how we're going to manage all the different parts of this moving thing, right?
Right.
Because
So
go ahead.
so did someone finally approve this thing or
Okay,
what?
so um the first thing they told me was, uh Michael, don't worry about it. Now, Keith,
You were
you
worrying
know what
about
that means. You know what that means. That means
it.
that we haven't figured
Go.
it out yet, but we don't want you to get upset, right?
Well,
Because we know
I'm
that you got to put in
a
this
little late
fight,
on that one.
right? But that train is left already,
Yeah, right.
right? So, okay, so I'm not worrying about it, but I'm worried about it.
Hmm.
All right, and they say, look, the company, they'll get you started. We'll figure it out. You know, don't worry about that. But excuse me, but we want to get you going.
Hmm.
Okay. And so when they finally get ready to get me going, the nurse says, you know what? You just, it's just something about your situation that I think you need to see another specialist. Now, this is an important thing that happened to me, and that is that I thought my pulmonologist was, I thought he was the man, okay?
Hmm.
And he is the man, okay?
Hmm.
He works as a specialist.
Hmm.
He's in the hospitals. You know,
Hmm.
he's in the office by day seeing patients. He's in the hospitals by night. He's
Hmm.
saving lives. Okay, so I thought that that's all I needed. But what the nurse told me, she said, "Well, I because that's what I said to her. I said I've known this doctor half my life. I've seen him save. He saved my mother's life, and I've seen him save lives, countless lives, day in and day out." She said, "You know what, Michael? It's true. He's great. He's wonderful, but you know he only has a certain set of resources to bear." And I said, "What do you mean by that?" And she said, "Well, there are specialists that have more resources to bear. There
Hmm.
are specialists that have worked in much more sophisticated environments and have been in much more sophisticated studies and
Hmm.
have seen many more patients with many different situations more than your particular specialist, this particular doctor that you see locally."
Hmm.
Okay, so I was starting to understand that. And I said, okay, well, how do I see that doctor? She said, well, I'll put in a call and we'll see if we can get you in. So, um, the moral of this little segment is that I went in to see this specialist who was in another state,
Hmm.
and that decision changed my life. I mean, it literally, I say changed. It really saved my life, right?
Hmm.
So pushing the envelope, bro, right now is, I mean, that is really, really important. I can't stress that enough. I can't
Right.
stress it enough, man.
So
And
what did that doctor do differently?
so this doctor, I went through a different battery of tests,
Okay.
and I can't really, I can't really explain it on this podcast, but I will put together an explanation. We'll talk about that later,
Hmm.
because you know it's one thing to get an MRI, right? But it's the eyes that look at that MRI
Hmm.
that make determinations.
Hmm.
It's really that simple. And if those eyes have seen things um, that other eyes have not,
Hmm.
the eyes that have not seen that,
We'll
they're
miss it.
not going to make the same decision that the eyes that have.
Yeah.
Okay, and when you do an MRI and a CAT scan, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. I'm
Straight.
not a professional, but I know that when they looked at the MRI and they look at the CAT scan, they look at every molecule of my lung, right? And they did it with contrast, without contrast, right? They did other studies. They did studies where I was inhaling like as big as I could.
Hmm.
I was inhaling to fill my lungs as much as possible, and then I'm exhaling as much as possible to close down my lungs as much as possible. I mean, so I was going through all these different tests. Look, there was one time where they made me. Uh, I had to basically. I wasn't running, but I was walking fast. Excuse me, I'm a little under the weather today, but I was I was exercising, right?
Hmm.
So I'm exercising, and then they're taking measurements while I'm doing this, and they're looking at my other organs, right? Because I think this doctor knew that okay, we're gonna test you. We've seen the autoimmune test, but we were gonna test you more, and I went through that process, and they determined that um, they weren't sure if I had IPF or not.
Mm. Okay.
All right. So the long and short of it is that I went through that process, and over a 3 year period, um, they decided not to put me on the biologic. They put me on a mycophenolate, autoimmune, because basically, I had an idiopathic disease,
That's what I have.
right? And
So,
yeah,
how when you were put on, what was the drug again?
mycophenolate. So CellCept. So if you look at CellCept, so CellCept is for autoimmune disorder.
Okay. Did you see an immediate response or no?
So what was interesting, I mentioned this to you. What was interesting is that I never had shortness of breath.
Yeah. So your
I
lung
had
function
I
was
might, but
you were good with that.
my capacity was under 50% when I went in.
Okay.
When I went out of state to a world-renowned specialist, my lung capacity was at 48, 49%. Okay.
Wow.
But
Okay.
I wasn't short of breath. Like my body was compensating. Now,
Oh.
I
Okay.
wasn't running a mile. I wasn't working out anymore, right? I wasn't doing all those things that I was trying to do. I wasn't keeping up with my sons.
Were you on oxygen or no?
I wasn't on oxygen. So it was
Yeah.
it was crazy. So 3 years later, my lung capacity is over 80%. But I still have, I have scar tissue in the lower half of my lung that, is not fixable. Right.
Wow.
So that's why your situation is very serious because you don't want the scar tissue.
Yeah,
You know,
and I think that's why they're giving me the steroids. Did you get steroids early on or
yes.
no?
So the prednisone helped me a lot, but we all know you can't stay on the prednisone very long.
So they got to switch it up with
Yeah.
other things.
Right.
I think
Hmm.
that's going to be the plan is sort of cocktail things and switch them up,
Yeah.
so that I can slow down any tissue or slow the progression.
Now what's interesting is that they looked at my history, family history, right?
Sure.
And as I mentioned to you, I was I was adopted at birth. So for 50 years of my life, I didn't know what my biological history was. But an interesting thing happened to me. Uh, when I met my biological family, um, when I turned 50, that was an experience, a
Sure.
wonderful, wonderful experience. But something happened to me biologically. I started to develop psoriasis.
Where did you develop the psoriasis?
So I developed this on my hands.
Okay.
And I had never, in 50 years of my life, I had never had any skin irritations at all.
Mm.
And of course, I want to blame my biological family for triggering something in me,
Hmm.
right? But it was odd. Now, what was interesting about that is that my biological family uh, suffered from the same thing.
Yeah, and as I understand, autoimmunes can kick in your 50s. So all of a sudden you're good, and all of a sudden, bam! Like I have
Yeah.
psoriasis on my elbows.
Uh huh.
I'm like, what the hell is that? It just now happened.
Yeah.
So
Right. So, and I was I was asthmatic as a child, right? Which is which is in line with these types of autoimmune problems.
hmm
So um, so not to belabor this point, we've got to we got to figure this thing out as quickly as possible.
right, and I don't want to be rude, but I do need to take my medicine. It's
Yeah,
time for
absolutely.
it.
So yeah, so bro, we will circle back, but this has been really good, and I'm happy, man, that you want to share this. I think people can gain a lot of knowledge about situations like this, because people deal with these types of challenges every day, right?
Yeah,
And you kind of feel by yourself.
yeah. I appreciate the opportunity to share because it is. When you speak it, you can control it. You at least get out there that I trying to have some level of things aren't as bad.
Right. Well, all right, bro. Well, let's circle back, man, and because this has been fabulous. Uh, I think if I can help you in any way, I certainly want to do that. And if you need
Okay.
anything, but I tell you, bro, I am praying daily for this healing process, right? To
Hmm.
get you back full speed. We've got you got a lot of things ahead of you, bro. So
Yeah, I do.
we gotta figure this out quickly, man.
Yeah, we do.
So go take that medicine, and I will I'll talk to you. The struggle continues, but
Yep,
it's a fight that you can win.
I believe that. I
Yes,
believe
sir.
that.
Okay, my brother.
I
You take good care of yourself. Be well.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.